Medyo
Video, no? Okay. Start na po recording. So again, good morning everyone. Kumusta inyong weekends? Okay ra ba?
Ilang ma'am.
Okay
Kuya
ra.
Polly.
Naka-adjust na.
pag wala dyan man na ba, ma'am?
Ay, bukura niyo duman na ba?
Naglaba.
After pa dyan ko sa klase Manila pa. Kaulan na ba? Okay, so ato ang topic for week 10, we will be discussing trends in organizational governance and good governance and human rights. So, ato ang learning outcome for this topic, we will be understanding the trends of governance in an organization together with duties towards its stakeholders' responsibility. So first, let us discuss the trends in organizational governance. So class, in our trends, Manggod, in the Philippine Security and Exchange Commission or the SEC, ang SEC kay nag-issue sila a new corporate governance, no? Corporate governance code for publicly listed na mga companies nato. So this took last January 1, 2017. So the code revision is part siya sa SEC's partnership with the International Finance Corporation or mas kilala na to sa tawag na IFC, and ang aim nila is to enhance the country's regulatory framework and investment climate. So, this new code is intended siya to raise the corporate governance standards of the Philippines publicly listed na mga corporation to level at par with regional and even global na counterparts nato. So, class, in recent years, as per to our trends, the SEC has been very prolific in coming out with corporate governance regulations in order to raise the standards of corporate governance in the Philippines. So much effort has been pursued in earnest to align more closely with the rest of our ASEAN neighbors so that investors' confidence will be enhanced. So can anyone continue reading the trends in organizational governance? Please start reading at it adapted, please. Kinsa yung pwede mabasa?
Saan naman kanina?
Ma'am.
Go ahead.
And recent series. Sige, ako na lang.
Okay.
In recent years, the SEC has been very prolific in carrying out its corporate governance regulations in order to raise the standards of corporate governance in the Philippines. Much effort has been pursued in earnest to align more closely with the rest of our ASEAN neighbors so that investors' confidence will be enhanced.
Next. Second paragraph.
It adopted the comply or explain approach which combines voluntary compliance with mandatory disclosure. Listed companies have to state in their annual governance reports whether they comply with the provisions of the code. Identify the areas of non-compliance and explain the reason for non-compliance.
Okay, thank you, Pelicano. Third paragraph, isa pwede.
The
The
code
code
also
also
incorporates
incorporates
Um,
the principle. Okay, fine.
okay, go corpus.
The code also incorporates the principles of proportionality, wherein the SEC provides flexibility to covered companies in implementing the code, in taking into account the size, structure, risk profile, and complexity of operations.
Okay, thank you so much for reading lang corpus in Pelicano. So again, trends in organizational governance. Um, the code, kaning code magod, they also incorporates the principles of proportionality. So same katong sa ano to na from the paano to recent years na to kay nagkaroon ng mga prolific na mga coming out with the corporate governance regulations. Then nagkaroon ng adaptation with the comply and explanation approach. And then hantod sa ang and then for now, the code also incorporates the principle of proportionality wherein ang SEC kaya provide siya of flexibility para makover ang mga companies in implementing their code and even taking into account the size, structure, risk profile, and complexity of operation. So, it defined man god corporate governance as the system of stewardship and control para mo guide sa mga organizations para ma-fulfill ilahang long-term na economic, moral, legal, and even social obligations toward their stakeholders. So it also added that the corporate governance is a system of direction, feedback, and even control using the regulation, performance standards, and even ang ethical guidelines para ma-hold sa ato ang board and senior management accountable for ensuring ethical behavior, reconciling mga long-term customer satisfaction with their shareholders' value to the benefit of all stakeholders and even sa society itself. So, class, it also emphasized manggod under the sa tuang corporate governance that its purpose is to maximize the organization's long-term success. So, mo na siya ang purpose aning wala to ng topic na to with the corporate governance para ma-maximize niya ang long-term success sa isa ka organization. So, through creating value for its shareholders, stakeholders, and even sa nation. Okay? Because in corporate governance, we are talking about the society. So, unsa kaya ang mga covered no sa code under aning kuan pag-maximize na to o long-term success na to? So, ang mga covered nato sa ato ang code are the following. So we have the board's governance responsibilities, katong mga board directors ato ilang responsibilidad in the pag pamalakad sa governance ato ang organization, the disclosure in being transparent, then internal control system and also the risk management ato nga framework if there is problem na ma-encounter na to na adayon tayo backup nga risk management. Then cultivating a synergic relationship with our shareholders. So we also have here under dito sa toang topic diri na sa toang code SEC Commissioner Manggod, ato ang SEC Commissioner si JV Paul Francisco is is the co-author siya sa isa ka book na gibuhat ni Dr. Ernesto Mendoza. So he is the Commissioner's Office. So this was taken manggod when Dr. Mendoza was doing his research on the SEC Code Corporate Good Governance for publicly listed na mga companies diri sa Pilipinas. So, In each of these principles were laid down by the code which stated in mismo specific niya nga terms or details of implementation. Example, is Principle 16 under duties to stakeholders, which clearly state that the company should be socially responsible daw in all its dealings with the communities where it operates. So it should ensure that it is interaction serve its environment and even stakeholders in a positive and progressive manner that is fully supportive of its comprehensive and balanced nga development. So, SEC, according sa SEC, they recommend a further na recommendation that the concerned companies should adopt a globally recognized na framework. So dapat globally or international recognized na framework in reporting their sustainability and non-financial na mga issues nila sa organization. So class, in coping with the current na mga challenges na to, according sa 2016 Corporate Governance Code for publicly listed na mga companies in the Philippines that was released by our SEC or the Security Exchange Commission to further strengthen the core of principles of fairness, accountability, and transparency in an organization. So these are the critical changes that were made in the new code, which are as follows. So can anyone read the first critical changes na nahitabo sa to ang code diri sa Pilipinas? Anyone? Wala pa ko kadungog aning kuan ba nagbasa sa kuan. Si Farilon daw.
So number one, the definition of corporate governance is further expanded to emphasize the responsibility of the board. This takes into account organizationally the obligation of companies such as economic, moral, legal, and social. Centers on time system of stewardship in fulfilling the organization's obligations.
So, thank you so much, Farilon. So, there are changes, no? Mas na further expand ang definitions of corporate governance in the critical changes na to sa code. So, naay ko nagkaroon na og changes in terms of obligations nila sa isa ka company in terms economic nila, moral, legal, and social. So, maliban sa economic, moral, legal, and social na focus or ang center jud karon sa kuan sa corporate governance in our companies are the stewardship para ma-fulfill ang mga obligations na ginabuhat sa tuang kumpanya. So second, si kuan Rio. Number 2, can you read it, Rio?
Yes, ma'am. Increase balance of
Executive.
increase balance of executive and non-executive directors. In the new code of SEC recommended an increase in the number of independent directors from 2 to 3. This is equivalent to one-third of the board, which SEC envisioned to lead to more objective decision-making. The SEC also recommend a policy on diversity in the composition of the board, which is not limited to gender diversity but to age, ethnicity, culture, and skills as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Leo. So, kanis number 2 is more focus on increasing the balance sa executive and the non-executive director. So, it also focus mong diri ang part na katong wala jud siya gender bias in terms of choosing our board of directors. So, dili lang siya limited sa gender, like lalaki lang pwede maging board of directors, kaya mostly sa other country, kaya mostly lalaki man din nila pili nga kuan board of directors. But it also pwede po ta mag based on their age, the ethnicity, culture, and even sa skills na naa sila or possess nila nga skills nga makatabang sa toang organization, sa pagpamalakad sa toang organization. So number 3, Christian Dave Corpus.
The code also incorporates the principle of proportionality, wherein the SEC provides flexibility to covered companies in implementing code and taking into action the size, structure, risk profile, and complexity of operations.
Read the number 3, there is a toang critical changes. Kani?
Sa ma'am,
Kailangan gibilugan.
sense man eh.
Hmm?
Naglag.
Lag ka? Sige, other na lang.
Hindi ko alam.
Napaata ka sa kuan. Slide number
Sa trends ako ma'am.
napaka sa trends. Slide number 2. Okay, so ano lang, wait lang, kinsang sunod. Nakabasa naman ni si Crystal, no? Si Sobrian, Danica?
Um, ma'am, sa,
Number 3. Ako?
sa 3 naman. Number 2, ma'am.
Number 3, to akong bulugan.
The new code The new code recognized that board committees are necessary to support the board in the effective performance of its functions. Three additional committees were cited by SEC, which is Corporate Governance Committee, Business Risk Oversight, and Related Party.
Okay, thank you so much for reading, Sobrian. So, the new code recognized that ang mga board committees are necessary na mo support sa board, no? Siyempre, kay sila man dyan ang main nga personahe nga kapadagan alang sa board committees. So, they have to support the board in the effective na performance sa ilahang functions and even sa ilahang responsibility sa ilahang trabaho, especially in oversighting or overseeing the business risk and other related na mga events na mahitabo sa organization. Then transaction committees. So transaction committees, each of these committees, Manggod, is tasked with specified functions designed to improve the performance of concerned the mga companies based on the new code. So with the above, it is every evident, Manggod, that SEC is out in promoting the development of a strong corporate governance culture. At the same time, kay they keep on with the recent developments in corporate governance. So, in a two-part article, Manggod, nagibuhat ni Dr. Claro Ganak, in 2016 yung article. He covered the state of corporate governance diri sa Pilipinas. So he highlighted that ang governance compliance daw class is weakest among small cap. Kaning small cap, ang ginamit nga ni is the market capitalization under 10 billion pesos. So companies in those in the services, oil, and even sa mga mining sectors nato, higher compliance levels were displayed by our banks or financial institutions and even mga holding companies for industry class, and by even ka ng mga large cap na mga companies, no, for firm size type nga company. Governance compliance man good among firms in the industrial and property sectors were within the satisfactory, pero dili siya, pero below ni siya sa exemplary nga level according kay Dr. Claro Ganak of 2016 na iyahang gibuhat na article sa corporate governance in the Philippines. So now let us proceed sa atuang good governance in human rights. So class, the concept of good governance manggod can be linked to the principles in rights set up in the main international human rights instrument. So this is seen in the Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is seen in the Article 21 ha. So kaning Universal Declaration on Human Rights manggod, this was adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations or the UN last December 10, 1948. So it was clearly stated there that the fundamental human rights manggod is to be universally protected dapat. So very 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 important ang human rights. So under this declaration class, the following are naatay 5 basic rights covered diri sa to ang under sa Article 1 to 5 na to. So these are the following 5 basic rights under the human rights. So before that, let me define to you what is these human rights. Human rights class are rights inherent to all human beings regardless silahang race, asa sila gikan, Pinoy ba sila, from Chinese ba sila, Spanish ba sila, unsa ang ilahang race, unsa ilang ethnicity, ilahang sex, babae, lalaki, transgender, bisexual, unsa pa ba dara ang straight or whatever. So even ang nationality, ethnicity, then language, religion nimo, or any other status. So human rights includes the right to life and even the liberty. So it also entails the freedom from slavery and mga torture. Then we also have the freedom of opinion and even expression. So na kay freedom. So it also works with right to work and education. So mao ni siya ang human rights manggo dati kay dili kayo siya ginapatupad because of gender biases, like lalaki lang ang pwede magbuhat ani, lalaki lang pwede magtrabaho ani, ang babae dapat na sa balay. Under Japan na siya sa human rights because today manggod we are on the equality type no na kung saan kaya sa isa ka tao, kung saan kaya sa guy, kaya po sa babae. So under na siya diri sa tuang human rights. Then everyone, pinaka-importante din siya nga part sa tuang definition, everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. So under sa human rights is gina-eliminate niya ang discrimination. So mao na siya ang human rights. Then now let us proceed katong sa 5 basic rights under sa Article 1 to 5. So Article 1 is the right to equality. So this is important, is a public value outcome as our society is founded on the idea of fairness and equality. So crucially siya as it also improve our public value nga outcome. So kaning right to equality, iyahang kuan ra jud diri, iyahang main point ra jud diri is that the idea of fairness and equality. Then sa Article 2, freedom from discrimination. So this means immunity from discrimination on the basis of sex, race, religion, or inyong edad. So this is recognized in the Universal Declaration of Rights. Then Article 3, kay nagatalk siya with regards sa right to life, liberty, and personal security. So, ang gina-aim aning Article 3 is that the right to live means the right not to be killed by another human being. Okay? Ang meaning sa right to live kay kuan ha, the right not to be killed by another human being. So dili ka pwede patson basta-basta patson lang sa imuhang kuan, sa imuhang kauban sa community or even sa asang ano ka dili ka pwede patson because it is your right for your life. So, while right to liberty podcast is the freedom to act or believe without being stopped by unnecessary force. O kung gatuo ka nga, walay naay Ginoo, then go for it. If dili ka nagakuan, nagatuo, then right po dat nimo nga, dili ka mo to, walay makapugong ana simuhang kuano, simuhang paniniwalaan nimo. It is your right na kuan. Freedom nimo nga mo believe ka without someone stopping you from believing it. Then you also have security of the person on the other hand is the basic entitlement and is associated with remedies like the writ of habeas corpus. Then Article 4, freedom from slavery. It is one's right not to be held in servitude or made to do forced na mga labor. Slavery is when someone actually owns you as if you are a piece of property. So, nauso ni siya katong mga sinaunang panahon, no? Especially katong mga Black African, kay gihimo mo silang slave dito sa US and other, even others from the other country kay napada po ng slavery. And from ato ang present time, no, sometimes mo exist yun ng slavery. Then, Article 5, freedom from torture and degrading treatment. So, this right is absolute and can never be limited or interfered with whatever circumstances. So, in the particular, no one shall be subjected without his free consent to medical and scientific na experimentation. So, dili ka basta-basta pwede i-torture. Dili ka pwede basta-basta nga eksperimentuhan ka nga without your consent. So, pwede niya maguba ang Article 5, the freedom from torture and degrading na treatment. Then we have the former Commission on Human Rights in its resolution under sa 2000 na resolution and number 64 sa resolution on last 2000. So this identified the key attributes of good governance which are as follows. So we have already agihan ni siya sa tuang week 9 nga discussion. So we have transparency, responsibility, accountability, participation, and responsiveness to the needs of the people. So class, this this resolution expressly linked with our good governance topic para ma-enable niya ang environment conducive para mo pursue sa iyahang human rights. So by linking our good governance diri sa tuang human development anchored on the aforementioned atong mga principles ganiha, the resolution stands as an implicit endorsement kumbaga aning atong right-based approach nato sa tuang development. So The resolution also recognizes Mangod the value of partnership approach to development cooperation. As such, mga true test of good governance is also the degree, kumbaga, which it delivers on the promise of the human rights. So, in additional class, with the above mentioned nato na mga articles, mga resolutions, good governance and human rights manggod are mutually, kumbaga ba, nagauban sila, reinforcing as human rights principles that provide a set of value para mo-guide sa to work the social to be the social actors, no, social actors in corporations that in our society. So without good governance manggod, it also affect the human rights, maybe because it was ignored and less protected. So however, manggod, it is considered manggod as the most important nato nga feature of the link between the good governance and our human rights. Um, this is the fact that the governance no provides the enabling environment nato where human rights can thrive. So in our workplace, if ever if ever you are working now or you will be working in the future in the workplace manggod as observed on the ground in actual Philippine setting nato, the following can be considered manggod in building a culture of human rights and equality in the workplace. So ano siya ang mga following na needs nato i-considered, no? So, can anyone read number 1? So, nakabasa na si Subrian. So, Ira Dayan Morales. Read number 1.
Companies have to come up with a cohesive human rights policy which mirrors the points stressed in the Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations.
Okay, thank you so much, Morales. So, this is important, Manggod, ganing ko equality in the human rights policy sa Declaration of Human Rights. This is important as it will show manggod the resolve and even commitment nato sa subject corporations na we have to pursue a culture na conducive sa equality and even sa human rights sa ato ang trabaho. So the said policy manggod will create or even enable the environment where the human rights will be fully practiced or even observed, or mas pinaka-importante under diri sa number 1 is to be respected. Number 2, ang kahas.
Provision of training session of the equality and human rights.
Okay, thank you so much, ang kahas. So, under diri sa number 2, so this will enable manggod the staff and even mga workforce na to na masabtan nila what it takes to achieve the standards nga giset sila for the enterprise or organization. Okay, next. Veneration.
Participation to push for equality and human rights in governance within the organization so that the voice of those experiencing inequality or human rights.
Okay, thank you so much, Veneration. So, with the number 3 class, these are just a few of several approaches lang, no, that a company can turn to into the pursuit of equality and even sa human rights in their respective na areas and also their influences. So this will allow manggod an enterprise para move beyond the reactive stance to a more proactive approach as it enable them na i-incorporate nila ang above mentioned na mga points nato in their organizational nga structure. For a while. Then, lastly, number 4, isa pang sunod. Si Mundiz, Kim Joseph.
Number 4, violation will have mechanism to ventilate their grievances.
Okay. So, violation in the mechanism mechanism para ma-ventilate their grievances. So, unsa kaya ning meaning sa ventilate? So, class, kaning ventilate manggod, cause, kumbaga, we have to discuss or examine an opinion, ang isa ka issue, or even complain in a public na perspective. Dili ninyo siya pwede basta-basta istoryahan lang privately. So, dapat tanan maka-ibalo. And then, the meaning of kuan class, yan lang, kanagalag akong. Ang meaning sa kuan class, kaning grievance class, is a real or imagined na wrong or other cause for complaint or even na protest, especially if nagkaroon og mga unfair treatment sa inyong trabaho. So most likely mga injustice type of of kumbaga injustice type of weighing kung unsa tong tama o mali kinsa to inyong gikampian sa inyong workplace. So with that, magkaroon dyan ta og mga complaint, mga criticism, mga objection, and especially protest sa tuang something that we believe to be wrong or unfair. So in doing the para maiwasan nato ang biases sa tuang workplace, we have to deal it publicly para mabalaan sa tanan kung saan nahitabo, para dili nila maingon yan na bias ang ang imuhang choices na. So mauna siya ang ato ang mga observe na ground observe na mga maka-affect sa tuang culture, sa pag-build natong culture under sa tuang human rights and even equalities nato sa tuang workplace. So dara mag-end ang ato ang topic for sa ato ang trends in organizational governance of sa human rights. But tomorrow class, we will be discussing kung unsa ning end of contract. Okay, so before ta mag-end para masugdan na nato ang introduction sa endo or end of contract, unsa man ang inyong ang inyong pagkahibalo aning end of contract? Anyone can share his knowledge with regards sa end of contract?
Ma'am, di ba mo man ang topic karon sa ma'am, government karang daw about sa contractualization.
Okay, di ba? Dati manggod uso man jud ng kanang contractualization sa trabaho nga after 6 months kay dara na mo indicate nga ma-regular na kasi umuhan trabaho. Some companies manggod kay bite manggod na sila sige na lang jud kag ipa-renew sa imong kontrata even though na 6 months. After 6 months kay ipa-renew na pud kag 6 months. Dili jud ka regular. Ang reason man gud anak class with the endo kay dili na mo sila ma-force nga hatagan ka og benefits sa imong company because you are still a contractual sa ilaha, under contract pa ka. Dili ang regular naman gud makadawat sila og mga benefits like ng mga SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. So sa regularization na dyan na nimo siya madawat. Pero if you are still on the contract man gud, mura lang kag gina-estudyuhan pa ka sa company ana. Pero most companies man gud dati, I'm not sure now kung kuan na jud nila, ginasunod na jud nila ng patakaran nga after 6 months kay regular na dayon ang ilang employees. Dati man gud kay ipa-renew ra ka sa ilahang kuan, sa ilahang another 6 months of contract para makatrabaho ka sa company. Naagan kung kakilala class, kuan na siya class. 4 years na sa iyang trabaho. Pero sige lang siya papermahon sa kuan. Papermahon sa company for kanang mo kuan, mo renew lang siya sa iyang kontrata nga kuan nga say tawag ani ha, sa term ni siya. Under probationary lang siya nga kuan na kontrata. So every 4 months di ay sila dili na ko ingno kung saan na siya nga company. Every 4 months kay ginapaperma na sila og renewal sa ilang contract. So mahulog sila og kuan part-time nga mga workers. Pero to think na 4 years na sa iyang trabaho, kuan Japon siya, ang status niya kay part-time worker. Even though wala siya giskwela, full-time dyan na iyahang trabaho. Ana ang iyahang status. Tapos, ang luoy lang sa iyaha because wala siya benefit. Like the SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Mama dyan siya mostly ang ginakuan ko, ginaapa sa regularization, tapos kanang mga government mandated na mga kuano, like mga makakuha ka og mga bonus po if regular na ka, mostly hatagan jud kag bonus sa company nga na unsa pa bang mostly na makuha. Dagan ng benefits na makuha inig regular na ka versus sa contractual lang ka kay. Mura lang kag probationary period lang jud na needed pa nimo i-win ang imong position na if you will go ahead ba na mag-regular ka or dili. Mao na siya problema dati sa end of contract. So in the labor front man god, one of the hottest issue karon or even pinaka-controversial siya karon no sa tuang panahon ang end of contract, which is gina-practice man gud siya by most of the companies sa tuang country. So this is presented nga it has a bearing on human rights also. So mo na siya i-topic na to tomorrow ang endo because this is related also sa human rights. So ang endo man god, this is strips the endo man god gina-strip niya ang worker of his right para sa iyang security of tenure. If anytime man god, if magkaroon ng problem, pwede dahil kahawaon sa imong trabaho. So wala assurance kumbaga ba kung stable ba kasi mo trabaho or anytime what if kung na-jud kay problem within sa inyong family because of that problem kasi syempre maka-affect pa jud sa inyong trabaho. If you are a contractual man good, anytime nga makitaan nga medyo dili na kayo ka effective and efficient sa mga trabaho, na-adjust sila yung power nga hawaan na yung sa inyong trabaho because of your kontrata, nakakontrata lang mo or contractual lang mo sa kumpanya. So that is the end of contract. Pero tomorrow class, we will further discuss kung sa yung endo or end of contract in relation with the human rights and also sa tuang corporate governance. So class, it's already 12 p.m. So we are already done in discussing our trends in organization and also the introduction in our human rights. So tomorrow, i-continue na to ang end of contract. So again, class, thank you for listening today. And if you have questions and clarifications with regards to ang topic for today, please ask me sa tuan BC or you can PM me any questions. Then tomorrow na ako i-post ang inyong SCP and also the activities ha. And again, please ko answer na ang inyong mga activities from week 7, 7, 8, 9. Week 7, 8, 9. Ito na kukuha ng inyong quizzes and participation ha. Don't forget that.
Ma'am,
Okay. Yes.
ma'am, open ba ang school?
Open ang school, karon?
Opo.
Oo, open ata. Oo, open ang school.
Pag mag-require
Yes,
ka og
open ang
example,
school.
ma'am, kanong evaluation grade, ma'am, face-to-face na ba, ma'am? Di na ba mo online?
Evaluation sa
Evaluation
Pwede
grade.
ka mag-diretso sa register na lang.